Hello, Facebook Live. How is everybody doing tonight? It's a gorgeous night here. Cold. Oh my gosh, it's so cold. I was barefooting in the snow the last couple days, but it was so cold I couldn't even go on the lake. That's when you know it's cold. When Shakaya's like, no, it's too cold for me. Anyway, how are you? I hope you're cozy. I'm just sitting here by the fire and I've got my little candle and I'm just going to wait for somebody to come on. I'm really fired up about tonight. We had an amazing, sorry about that sound. Wow. We had an amazing live last time. And I shared some really powerful things, and I want to touch on even a few more things tonight, including some funny stories that I have about my own, I was going to say my ability to receive, but really it was more like my inability to receive back in the day. And, you know, because I know some of you might be looking at me and saying, well, it's easy for her. You know, it's easy for you, Shakaya. You like to receive, you love to receive, you're good at receiving. And maybe she's born with it, maybe it's Maybelline. You know, I know what that feels like because I wasn't always an abundant receiver. So if you're sitting there looking at me and saying, well, easy for you, it wasn't always this way. And I want to share some of the energetics on how I have been able to receive. So, but first I want to share, if you are ready and able to invest in yourself and really shift your energetics of receiving and discover for yourself how to literally open your channels of receiving so that you can let in the prosperity, the health, the love, the wealth, whatever it is, the abundance that you desire, you can book a session with me for $555, and we will be able to really open your channels of receiving in that first session. Like, no kidding. I've done this for many, many years, many, many clients. They have received promotions, pregnancies, proposals, and everything in between, and myself included. However, if you would like even more support and you want to do a longer deep dive, I actually have the Feminine Formula of Receiving journey that's coming at the end of this month. And that is an 8-week program. This is a program of, complete deep dive into the energetics of receiving, where you're going to learn how to drop your resistance to receiving. Because you may think you have a money problem, but as I tell all my receiving clients, and they learn for themselves, you know, money's not the problem. Money is abundant. Money is infinite. You know, it's kind of like source energy is infinite. Money is just another reflection of that. The problem is in your ability to receive it. And it's the same with love. It's the same with health, as I've discovered many, many journeys around money and health and receiving. And I've transformed all of them. So that's why I love this topic and I love to share about it, because I'm on a mission right now. I feel like I've never been in such a position as I am now. You know, within the first 15 months of my art business, I became a 6-figure artist. And then I received licensing deals and an angel investor. And I've received free trips, more than on one occasion, to Maui and to, you know, other places where I have really, really been able to open myself up to receiving, not just trips, but opportunities, gifts, upgrades at hotels and airplane flights and things like that. And all of this is to say that when their channels are more open and their energetics are a match to what it is they want to receive, it doesn't matter if it's a little parking spot when you want a parking spot to open up for you, or friendships, opportunities, you know, bigger things like trips, or like, you know, stellar clients, or a 6 or multiple 6-figure business, or whatever it is your particular flavor is. These things are all available because receiving is receiving, and there is no order of difficulty in receiving. It's just a matter of whether or not you're a match to what you want to receive. And this is what I teach in the Feminine Formula of Receiving. And if you want to just do a clarity call with me because you're not sure whether you want to do the private call for $555 or the whole group program, I can offer you that. And that's a free 15-minute session with me, and we will determine what is right for you. So just DM me if either of those sound good, but you're not sure which. We can have a little discussion. So welcome, welcome, welcome. This is going to be a fun topic, fun night. We had a great time last time, and I received lots of questions and lots of feedback. And I know this is really touching a nerve for many of us because we tend to be very lopsided when it comes to receiving. We're great at giving most of the time, and we are more sort of understanding of giving. We relate to it. We have a sense that, you know, you're a good person if you give and all of that, but we don't really understand the energetics of receiving. And this is so crazy considering that they're sort of two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other. So why are we so fixated and focused on only giving? And what happens to the point where we're depleted and exhausted? And if you're a woman who feels stressed out all the time because you don't have enough time, or you're exhausted and depleted because you're working too hard, too much, or you're giving and giving and giving for little in return. And a lot of time we're doing that because we think that's how we can generate receiving. But all of this is really not how receiving works. And I can't wait to share to the women who really are ready to receive. The women who want to receive more in their life, you've got to get past this notion that it's all in what you do or that it's about your worthiness to receive, because none of that is true. You can actually, and you can look around in your life. I'm sure you know people. They're not the greatest people in the world, you know, but they are abundant receivers. Or there are other people who you know are really hard, they've got a heart of gold, and yet they can't receive. Maybe that's you. So I'm on this mission to really, I want to see more receivers. I want to see women come into their fullness, because just having a busy life doesn't mean you're having a full life. And a lot of the women that I coach and mentor and know and am friends with and colleagues with, so many women are doing and you know, they're just very busy. And busyness doesn't equate with success or receiving. What I really want is my Empress women to understand the energetics of receiving and to really come into their place of power around receiving, and to move in their life in a way in which the people want to give to them and that life gives to them. Because life is always giving to us. Thank you for the hearts and the likes. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, if life is always giving to us, I always say life is on its tippy toes to give to us, then why aren't we receiving? Why is it that some do and some don't? And why is it that some of the people who receive, they're the least likely that you would think deserve to receive, and vice versa? Some of the people who you know are just incredible people and they're so giving, and yet they're struggling. They're not receiving. They're in depletion mode. So you may be asking yourself this around your own life. If you look into your own life and you're like, what the F? Like, why aren't I receiving more? I give it, you know, I give out, I do all the things. This is not a frivolous topic either. This is really a matter of life and death many times, because there are women, like myself included, like my own mom, like many women, clients, friends, colleagues that I know, who are in such a depletion. Like, my mom literally died. That's how dire it can be when you are giving and giving and giving and not receiving in return. This is no joke. This is serious. We can become not only very, very unhappy and frustrated, and, you know, we can give up. We can just feel like, what's the use? You know, when are we ever going to receive? When is it our turn to receive? And we can start to feel like, what's the point of even desiring things? I'm not going to get it anyway. Have you ever felt like that? Where you literally sort of take your name out of the lottery and you're like, well, I'd love to receive that. Oh, I'd love to, but I know my name won't be picked, or I know it won't happen for me. Have you ever felt like that? There's so many ways that we can move through this world and either be a receiver or a non-receiver. And I totally understand, because we're almost conditioned not to be receivers. And I want to change that. I really am on a mission to create 1,000 receivers. And I've received probably, let's see, how many women have I helped already in my receiving journey? Maybe 120 or so. So I have a long way to go. But I want you, if you're interested in this, thank you for all the hearts, I want you to be one of those 1,000. And so what I'm doing is I'm offering, not only can you work with me privately, but it's at a much higher investment, but it is still possible. But what I'm offering at the end of this month is really a very affordable, now everything's relative, right? But very affordable for what you're going to be receiving, which is an 8-week journey with me and a few receiving sisters. It'll be a small, intimate group. And I'm going to take you on the journey from A to Z on how to actually become an abundant receiver. Not just, a little bit here or there, or very random or sporadically. I want you to learn how to receive. It's a skill. And once you learn it, once you understand, it's really about the energetics of receiving, you can apply this to any area of your life, anytime. This is something you will never lose. You will have it for the rest of your life. And I think this is very valuable, because if you, like myself, are a mother or in partnership, how you move through the world and learn how to receive, you will be gifting other people in your life that energetic, and they will learn just through your transmission how to receive. So it's the gift that keeps on giving to everyone in your life. The more you receive, the more other people in your life will learn how to receive. This is exciting. I love, love, love this stuff. So if you're interested in that journey, right now it's only $9.99, and that is for the 2-month journey. You will receive all the transmissions, the energetics, the templates, the rituals around receiving. You will also learn how to completely release your blocks and patterns that prevent you from receiving. Not only that, you're going to receive and release your particular ones, because even though receiving and many of the blocks to your receiving are very universal, most people do it in 3 particular ways. And I will share about that more in the program. There's 3 levels that everybody who is not a very good receiver, it's operating on those 3 levels. They're blocked in those 3 ways. But there's also your particular secret sauce sort of ways of how you really block receiving. I know I had my particular ways of doing it, and you have yours. And in the program, we're going to identify them. This is such a fun journey. I have taught this journey to women who were in groups. They were in VIP programs with multimillionaire coaches. And these coaches asked me to come in and teach their VIPs how to receive. And I've had people from years ago who took those trainings come to me, and over the years they find me and say, I'm ready to work with you privately. When I was in that group, I was so blown away. I never forgot it. I never forgot you. And now I'm ready to receive. So they take the full journey with me, and they really become receivers. And whether it's pregnancies, promotions, proposals, better health, more opportunity, real connection to yourself, your emotions, your intuition, all the things that make your life richer, connections with other people, opportunities, exciting opportunities, etc., 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 your purpose, your ability to have clarity, crystal clarity, not only about what you want and what you desire, but literally, do I turn left here? Do I turn right? Is this right or wrong for me? Is this person being genuine, telling me the truth? You would believe what you can receive. And receiving is receiving is receiving. It's across the board. So once you learn the energetics, all of this is available. It's not just in one area. In this program, we talk about money. We talk about how to receive love, more energy, more clarity, etc. It's not just one thing. So if this sounds juicy to you, stay tuned because I have lots more I want to share on this topic. So for tonight, I thought I would share a couple things. This is kind of embarrassing, but I think it's really important. I want to share some of the embarrassing ways that I used to block receiving, because I know some people are looking at me and saying, well, it's easy for her, it's easy for you. And it wasn't the case. And in fact, I know that I still have a ways to go, because now that I'm aware of the energetics of receiving, it doesn't mean just because you're aware of it, bingo, presto, you'll be completely unblocked. There is, learning and a process and working with your own particular secret sauce of how you block it, right? So I know there are still things in me, because there are certain things that aren't coming in maybe as easily as I would like. And I would say, okay, so now that I know the energetics of receiving, I can look at and see, is it on this level, or this level? Where am I still holding in myself energetically a pattern that's blocking that? And then I can start to release that and undo that. So it's an ongoing thing. And I just believe in my heart for the rest of my life, I'm going to be continuing to open to receive. So this is not a one and done, but in order to receive, all the things that I have been able to receive, even just a marriage of 26 years that is growing hotter and stronger and deeper throughout time. The relationship with my children, my boys, they're constantly, and I kid you not, they are constantly thanking me for how I have raised them to really trust themselves, to be receivers, to have clarity, etc., etc. I am so blessed to hear that. As a mom, nothing could be more fulfilling than that. When you know that you did your job, you really gave them that foundation. To having girlfriends that I've had for over 30 years. There are things that I receive that are not materialistic at all. They're so meaningful. But also to be able to receive the income, the clients, to be able to do the work that I love. And I'm talking about this because I'm claiming it. I'm proud of it. I'm excited. I know that this is not just for me. And that's why I'm showing up and doing these lives. This is for you. Thank you. I want everyone to feel this way. And I know it's totally possible. I was such a slave girl. Oops. I was such a slave girl about receiving. It's not even really funny, but now it is. I find some of the things that I used to do kind of hysterical now. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to share a couple examples of some of the ways that I really blocked receiving. So I just know you're going to end up thinking to yourself, wow, she was really bad at receiving. And you're probably going to think to yourself, wow, I'm not as bad as Shakaya was. Maybe there's hope for me. So if you think it's just so easy for some women and not for you, I have a feeling I'm going to make you feel a lot better about yourself in a minute. So for example, I'm going to share a couple stories. How I've totally transformed my ability to receive. Well, I shouldn't say totally, because I know there's still room to grow, but I really do feel like I have really got a grasp on it, and I have received the codes, and I want to impart them onto you. So there was a time in my life where I really did feel like a slave girl in terms of my ability to receive, and I felt very stuck. I felt very in bondage, and it was all in my own mind, of course. But when you grow up on the streets, when you're an orphan, when you don't have the support, when you don't have the money, you don't have enough food to eat, you're hungry all the time, you don't have clothes, you certainly don't have nice clothes, you don't have things, you don't have security or protection, you don't have even a lot of hope for your future. And you really wonder, how are you going to even survive? This is what I mean by feeling very enslaved by my own mindset and my own limiting beliefs. This is where I lived. This is where I was. And this was not easy to get out of either, as maybe you can imagine. So I went around in life feeling like other people, it was easy for them, and it just wouldn't happen for me. And there were things that I desired. There were so many things I desired, but I just kind of was resigned to the fact that that was for some people and that just wasn't for me. But I noticed that, I had these desires, and it wasn't enough to just constantly be a victim and resign myself. I started to say, how could I maybe receive what I wanted? How could I become the woman that I really am here to be? And what's the difference? And something that I really, really learned was that life actually is for everybody. It's not for some. It may look like that because there's a great divide between the haves and the have-nots. But from being on both sides, like I was in the have-not camp, completely destitute, literally zero money, zero support, and impoverished, alone, not feeling safe in the world, etc., to where I am now, living in a beautiful home off of the forest, off of the lake, just steps from the forest and minutes to the lake, and I have a beautiful view, and I am supported in my life. I'm surrounded by stellar clients and collectors and family and friends and colleagues, etc. I feel very supported by life. So I feel like I'm in the have category now. And so how did I do that? Because it didn't happen by accident. I can tell you that. Yes, there's some luck involved because I do feel I'm very lucky, but I also feel that I make my own luck. And the more that I've opened to receive is how that luck has really found me. And there are energetics. So let me tell you this one story that kind of illustrates this. So there's a couple of them. They're so bad. They're so embarrassing. I remember once when I was in high school, we were doing a project on fundraising, and we had created a fundraiser and made a lot of money, and the whole class and the teacher, I remember one time I was away, and when I came back, the teacher said to me that the class had decided, after class, the teacher pulled me aside and said, oh, regarding the fundraiser, the class has decided that they want to gift all the money that was donated, raised, they want to donate it to a particular person in the class. Would you like to know who that person is? And he smiled and had this glint in his eye, and I could tell he was going to say me. And I was literally mortified. If you can imagine, rather than just say, yes, sure, I'd love to know who was it, I was just like, oh no, I'm so embarrassed. That's how I felt. I was like, he's going to say it was me, and how am I going to possibly receive that money? Like I would just, at that moment, I felt like I'd rather just the floor swallow me up. Now, you have to understand, I'm in high school, and I am an orphan with little to nothing in terms of material goods. And I could certainly have used the money and any support. And here I was saying, no, I don't want to know who it was. And the teacher was really taken aback, and he said, would you want to know who it was if it was you? And I was like, oh my God, like, please don't say it was me. And I was like, no. And he was like, oh, really? Why? And I said, I'm sure there's, many people who could really use that money. I just was I felt ashamed, and I just could not receive it. I could not even hear it. I was just so blocking it. So if you can imagine. So finally the teacher was like, well, okay, I'm going to respect your decision on this. And so we never really had the conversation, but the next, he never actually came out and said it was you, but it was just all in his field, and it was kind of just like, oh, wow, this did not go how he thought it was going to go. And I just escaped feeling like I dodged a bullet, which is so crazy. How crazy is that? There was another time in my life something like this happened. And then of course in the next class, he had talked about that the person who everyone decided they wanted to give to the fundraiser to had, in their own way declined it. So they were doing another vote and they chose someone else. So another example was, I was in university at this point, and I had written an essay, and there was like over 100 people in the class. And when it was time to collect the essay, because it was now due, I realized I didn't write the essay. It's like, oh my gosh, this is like my first 2 weeks in university in this class. I hadn't written the essay. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm starting off on the wrong foot. So I remembered what the main question of the essay was, so I just quickly wrote the answer. Like while he was collecting the hundreds of papers, I wrote my answer really quickly, and I finally submitted it. A week or two later, when he was letting everyone know and handing out the marks and the essays that had been marked, he said, before I hand them out, I want to say something. In all my years of teaching, I've asked this question at the beginning of the class, and I've never received the right answer in all the time that I've been teaching this until last week. I received the right answer. And the funny thing was, it was also the shortest answer. And I was like, oh my gosh, could it have been mine? So he ended up reading the essay that was the right answer, and it was mine. And he said, now, if whoever wrote this essay would please come forward, because they did not sign their name on the paper. I don't know if I did that on purpose or not, but I can tell you when he asked for the person to come forward, I never did. It was like I just didn't want anyone to know it was me. I didn't want him to know it was me. I just couldn't receive whatever praise or whatever I might have been open to receiving. I couldn't do it. So I know these stories are a little bit, extreme and ridiculous, and you're probably sitting there thinking, what's the big deal? Of course you could have received it. Your class wanted to gift you that money, and you wrote the essay. Why couldn't you just own up to it? That's how bad I was at receiving. And when it came to compliments or pleasure in the bedroom, like I talked about last time, in so many ways, I have blocked receiving. So I am sure most of you listening today are probably thinking, you're right, Shakaya, you sucked at receiving. Like way, way, way worse than you probably do. So that's just to put your mind at rest, and also to demonstrate that there's hope for you. I mean, look, if I could start at being such a horrible receiver to the person I am now, then who is literally an abundant receiver, then, if I've learned the energetics of receiving, if I've passed this on to over 100 people, then there's definitely hope for you. So those are just a couple of my embarrassing stories about receiving. But now I want to share a couple of my fun stories of receiving, because since I've learned how to receive, it's really one of my favorite things in the world to do. And again, I'm not saying I'm the total queen of receiving, because I still feel there's room for me to grow. However, I am an abundant receiver, and I'm going to share a couple of the fun stories of receiving now. For example, I was once sitting in a restaurant by myself. Something that I like to do, let me just take a little sip of water here. Is I really love to sometimes take myself out for a nice little lunch or whatever. And I'll go to my favorite little place, my favorite little cafe, and maybe I'll have a book, or maybe I'll have my journal with me, or maybe I'll just people watch or whatever. And, I've traveled around the world, and I kind of got that habit from when I was traveling. I actually love to take myself out. I say I'm taking my best friend out for lunch today. And it's me, myself, and I. And I'll go and I'll have a beautiful meal or a little treat or whatever. And I remember this one particular day, and, it didn't seem like anything special was happening. I was just having a ball, just doing what I do. And I don't even know if it was just a cup of tea and a slice of cake or something small, but I remember like the sun was shining. It just felt like everything was so glorious, you know. And then I left the money there and a little tip. And then I walked across the street and I was in a store and I was looking around. And all of a sudden there was a tap on my shoulder. And I turned around and it was my waiter. And he had literally ran from his work across the street, found me, and he had a long-stemmed rose. And he gave it to me. And he said, I just have to tell you, like, you were the most, beautiful woman I served today. And I think he even asked me out. Like, he wasn't just saying thank you, but I think he was kind of trying to get a date or whatever. And of course I had to shoot him down because I'm married. But it was a beautiful example of to receive. You don't have to do anything. A lot of the myths, and I'm going to cover this maybe next time. I said I would do it last time. I really want to do a little thing on the myths of receiving. Today I want to just sort of tell you some of my stories about receiving, but next time I think I'm going to go a little deeper and tell you some of the actual hardware, the energetics of receiving, and what some of the myths are in case you might be buying into some of these myths about receiving. One of them being, we think that it's based on what we do. But honestly, it's not. I mean, I was sitting in that cafe, the sun was shining on me, and it didn't matter what I was doing. It didn't matter if I was a good person. It didn't matter if I had high self-esteem. All that mattered was that I existed and I was there. And that is how I was able to receive. And yeah, maybe there was something about me that he really appreciated. I don't think I did anything. I don't even remember talking to him or really looking at him. I think I was really engaged and engrossed in my beautiful little meal and just the people watching. So there was nothing that I did in particular to receive his admiration and his rose and his offer for a date. Maybe it was just in my energy, and I believe that's really what it was. Another time, another example, this is really, really funny, crazy even. I was in a shoe store shopping, and this really elegantly dressed gentleman asked me, he approached me and he asked me, he said, what shoes are you looking for? And I was like, do you work here? And he says, no, I'm actually shopping for my wife. And I want to surprise her, but I really don't know what to get. And you look like a woman with good taste. And I just want to know what shoes do you think would be, what are you looking for, right? So I was like, oh, well. So I ended up trying on several pairs of shoes, and I was deciding what I was going to get. And I had 3 pairs, and I personally, I love my Birkenstocks. I love my high heels. I love comfy shoes. I love sexy shoes. I love shoes. So there were a few shoes that I really, really liked, and I was deciding. And he was asking me, why that pair? And, what is it about that pair you like? Well, anyway, when I finally was taking my pair of shoes up to the counter, I think I had 2 pairs. Was it 1 or 2? And anyway, he ended up insisting on paying for them. And he actually bought the same shoes for his wife in her size. Crazy story, I know. And I was like, no, you don't have to buy my shoes. And of course, I didn't want to be beholden to him or obligated in any way. And of course, I was totally prepared to pay for my own shoes. But he insisted. He said that he had really appreciated me taking the time to share with him what shoes I liked and why, etc. And it was the least he could do. Anyway, he was a tourist and traveling. And anyway, he bought my 2 pair of shoes, and he bought the same pair in his wife's size for her. Crazy story. I know, it's really fun, really cute. I loved it. It really reminded me how you can receive without feeling guilty, without feeling that you owe anybody anything. He was literally, that's all he wanted from me. And I was kind of shocked. Like, are you sure? And I was kind of thinking, like, what is the salesperson thinking? Like, I was thinking she was probably thinking, oh my God, like, is she actually going to receive them? Like, what does he really want? No, we went our separate ways and it was super cool. Never heard from him again, never saw him again. I don't even think I knew his name or he knew my name. It was just this incredible exchange and I was open to receiving it. So I know that's kind of a silly little story, but it's all in the energetics. I've literally had other things that I've received that were so much more valuable, more important in terms of my health or my well-being or my learning of something that was really valuable to me. But I think these stories really show that anything is possible. Anything is possible if we are open to receiving it. And most of the time we're not, and we don't even we don't realize how we're blocking it. And like I said earlier, there are 3 ways that most people block receiving, and I'll get into that in the receiving journey, as well as your particular ways of doing that. And not only will we identify how you particularly block receiving in your life, but how to actually open your channels of receiving. And this is really, really exciting stuff. So if you are interested in this, I'm going to have you go to my receiving info page so that you can kind of see what's all there. And that is at my website, earthempress.com/receive. And when you're there, you're going to see more what it's all about. And again, it's an 8-week journey. This is not a one-off. This is a long journey. This is 2 months and there's zero fluff. This is really one of my best programs because it's highly structured. There's a lot of really practical curriculum in terms of receiving, in terms of unblocking your receiving, in terms of the feminine archetype of receiving. If you don't understand the energetics of receiving, and if you're approaching receiving from a doing or simply a passive, it's neither. Receiving is a highly engaged, very dynamic state, and this is what I teach. So if this sounds interesting and juicy to you, and if you want to learn more, just go to earthempress.com/receive to find out more about this journey. Or if you would like to have that one-on-one call with me and really open up your channel of receiving, that's a 1 session for $555. Or of course you can do the full journey privately as well, and that's a much higher investment. But for now, I'd really love to offer you into the Feminine Formula of Receiving group program. It's going to be a small group, 8 weeks long, and we're really going to open your channels of receiving and shift your energetics so that you can be that channel of receiving and open to all the love and money and abundance and connection and opportunity and everything else your big heart desires and deserves. So let me know how you love this whole idea of receiving, how you relate to it. I remember Carrie was saying on the last live in her comments, something about she loves to give, which most of us feel more comfortable giving, right? But she didn't feel that she was that comfortable receiving. And it was something about, she was always not sure if she was receiving too much. It almost felt like she had this energy. It was more like a taking energy, or she didn't want it to be like that. She wanted to make sure she didn't take too much. And we have so many, phobias and fears and misconceptions and discomfort around receiving. And I really want to change that. I really believe that when we receive, everyone benefits. When our cup is overflowing, we have more to give. This is not a selfish pursuit. Yes, when we are centered in ourselves and we become receivers and we overflow, yes, we do benefit. But I truly believe when our cup runneth over and, it's flowing, that we actually have more to give to the people in our life. You just can't give from an empty cup. And if you're tired of feeling stressed and feeling like there's never enough time, there's never enough money, there's never enough whatever it is that you desire, and you're feeling secretly resentful and just noticing how other women are receiving, and you're wondering, well, why aren't you receiving? And you're feeling like, this isn't fun. like being alive and having this incredible opportunity on this blue jewel, it's supposed to be fulfilling. And we're supposed to learn how to receive. That's why we have the desires that we have. And if you're not receiving it and you're noticing, well, other women are having more fun and they're learning how to receive, and what's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with your money situation, your love situation. There's nothing wrong with your health. There is nothing wrong that learning how to receive it won't fix. That's what I've learned. That once you learn the energetics of receiving, and this is the feminine essence, and even though we both have, the male and female has the feminine and the masculine, we're most often defaulting on the masculine, which is the doing and the giving. But that is a big myth. It really takes both. It's a very sacred union of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And if this sounds religious or woo-woo, it's actually not. It's very, very practical. Feminine and masculine are just energies. And we all have feminine and masculine energy. And the feminine of receiving, it's a trait. And there are certain traits that go along with that, like reciprocity, receptivity, willingness to accept, etc., etc., etc. And it's not all about doing or giving or striving or struggling or being good enough, etc., etc., etc. These are myths about receiving. So I'm going to get into more of that next time. But for now, I'd love to hear your feedback, your comments, your questions, how this lands for you, what you would like to receive. And of course, if you do have any questions about the feminine formula of receiving, just DM me. I'm all ears. Or you can leave a comment. So that's what I have for you for tonight. Hope you enjoyed that and enjoy the rest of your evening. And I will speak to you soon, maybe even tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday. It might be a good day to do a really nice structured myths of receiving. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Let me know if you love that and if you're around for that. Anyway, for now, that's it. And I'll talk to you soon. Lots of love. Bye for now. Ciao, everyone. Good night.